recording? Microphone?
You want me to say that again, or is that okay?
Yes.
You want it again? This is the regular meeting of the Belvedere Tiburon Joint Disaster Advisory Council. Regular meeting of April 15th, 2025. It is now 2 minutes after 4. And we will call the meeting to order. And we'll start out with approval of January 28 minutes. Those have been posted. Has anyone or everyone had a chance to review those? Yeah, there's Jane. Any comments, changes? Okay, we will then
I
assume.
recommend, oh, sorry.
They'll stand approved as read. This is an open forum for anyone in the audience. Jane, you have anything to say? Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm happy to,
Naomi, anything you want to bring up right away or? All right. Okay, well, we have. Sorry? Okay. I have a fairly small turnout compared to the last time. We had a huge turnout. Anyway, we'll move ahead. This is an open forum, though, for anyone online that would like to bring up an issue that is not on the agenda. If it is on the agenda, we'll deal with it hopefully in this meeting. If it's not on the agenda and not an emergency, we will agendize it for the next meeting. Here, do we have anybody online? Probably not. Okay. So we'll go ahead with a presentation that apparently. Sure, go ahead, it's fine.
a lot, it's just a formality. I'm a Belvedere member of the committee, as
Right.
you are, and we want to share with the rest of the committee a few recent conversations we've had with other Belvedere members on the committee. Rather than go through a list of shall I list who those people are? Or I think we know who everyone is from the Belvedere and Tiburon sides of the committee.
How many are there?
7.
Go ahead and name them.
Sure. Alphabetical by last name. There's Pat Carapiet, Belvedere City Council member. Jane Cooper, Belvedere City Council member and mayor. You, Tom Cromwell, the committee chair. Ruben Kalra, one of 2 Belvedere resident volunteers. Keith Pagan, that's me, the other Belvedere resident volunteer. Jason Wu, Belvedere Police Chief, and Robert Zadnik, Belvedere City Manager. It came to my attention when I joined the committee a few months ago that the Marin County Office of Emergency Management had published its Emergency Operations Plan, the EOP, and some on the Belvedere City Council noted errors and/or omissions in the EOP with respect to the city of Belvedere specifically. And there was an effort to remedy and then return the EOP back to the county. And in putting together that remedy, we gathered as a small working group to just have that discussion as it was specific to Belvedere. And we came together, we made some changes. We suggested them back to the county and thought, well, what are we doing here? We're looking at that subset of the committee's activities that relate specifically to Belvedere and its uniqueness, rather than sort of fitting easily into a Tiburon model. So we got together and we called our sit-down meeting Be Ready Belvedere. And through that group of people, we came up with these changes in the EOP. And we feel it would be advisable to think of this Be Ready Belvedere working group to situate itself under and within this committee rather than sort of be unrelated. And that's, I suppose, all I'm proposing is that, when we have Belvedere specific issues, that we'll sit down as a working group, but still report back to this committee here rather than seeming as renegade or otherwise unconnected. It's just a message I wanted to deliver to the committee.
Well, thank you. Jane, any comments? You have been a big force behind this.
Describe it, we see ourselves. That's why the two Belvedere members, Ruben and Keith, were invited to sit on the working group. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. That's okay, thanks, sorry. First time I've spoken at this meeting after 2 years. Oh, you mean for Zoom. So for the Zoom, yeah.
And just for formality purposes, introduce yourself, please.
There. Hi, this is Jane Cooper, Mayor of Belvedere. And when the city council adopted the Belvedere Tiburon EOP from the county office, and we noticed, as Keith said, there were some errors and things missing that were in the Tiburon part of it, but not in the Belvedere part of it. Like they didn't have our current zoning map and things like that. So the city council asked to have a working group put together to address those issues. Because of this group, I thought the great idea would be to take Belvedere people from here, so Ruben and Keith and Tom, and then we have 2 city council members, which is our normal way of having working groups, and our city manager and Chief Wu, just like Keith said. So we decided after addressing the EOP that it would be, there was the tsunami warning, there were the fires in LA. We had a lot of residents upset and very concerned. And so we thought we have a working group already put together. Let's keep going and sort of handle the emergency preparedness that Lori and this group handle, but we'll do it specifically for Belvedere so that we can have a hands-on work with our block captains if needed, our block captain program, and get information from our police chief and city manager. So essentially, we're just letting you know that we started this, as Tom knows and Keith knows, and we're moving forward. I think Tom and Keith are working on getting some memos of understanding with the yacht club. We have one with St. Stephen's Church. We're going to look at the library, things like that, which I think we're looking to have Lori help us with those kind of things too. And Lori's, I hope, invited to our next meeting so that we are connected right away with her. And because Get Ready 94920 encompasses Belvedere, but it's always seemed more Tiburon centric. So we're just having our little bit of Belvedere that'll fit in, and we'll report back always on anything that's going on. So I don't know if anyone has questions.
Obviously, you're going to continue with upgrading. It's not, how do you turn it? Is that on? Okay. I don't think we needed that loud. You're going to continue with upgrading the EOP.
Well, we've pretty much finished our edits at this point. And
So-
I think we sent them to Lori, our city manager, Robert Zadnik, shared everything with Lori, and then Lori, I don't know what you do with it.
So then I'll take it back to the Tiburon Town Council and the Belvedere City Council for approval, and then all of the department heads will sign off on it, and we'll put it back in the EOC.
Okay, there you go.
And I think I don't think that any of the edits were something we need to practice, but if they were major changes, we would use that as a tabletop exercise in the EOC or something like that. But I don't think anything was too.
No, they were just inaccuracies that, I think there was something about sea level rise, and it wasn't referencing the current sea level rise website and things like that, we
So,
tried to.
And just to let you know, the emergency operation plan, I think that one's now 5 or 6 years old. The new one is in the works, and that'll have all of the new updated
Great.
information.
Oh, great. Okay.
Because that one is just about outdated. And
No wonder.
yeah, so that's an older one. They're good for about 7 years, and every 7 years we create a new one. And so the latest one will be coming out, and I would like to invite, when we start the process, I'll send a copy to you, to your group, in case, so you guys can double check and make sure everything is accurate before it goes to council for approval.
That would be great.
And
Okay.
Lori, I would suggest, once you get to that point of distributing it, send it to all members of the disaster council.
And maybe we can do it in the EOC and we can actually do a little EOC ICS training at the same time, because that's really where the emergency operation plan lives, is in the EOC and with the ICS structure. I'd love to, once again, invite everybody to come in for a training.
Good, thank you. Keith and I have made a little bit of progress on some of the things Jane was talking about. I'll cover those when we get to the end of the meeting, so we stay on the agenda as it is written. Lori, do you want to, what about this tabletop now? Are we?
I'm very excited to present some information on a tabletop exercise that was held up at the Marin County Office of Emergency Management. They hosted it, but FEMA came in and actually did the exercise. And there was representatives from every law enforcement and fire jurisdiction in Marin County. It was really well attended, and a lot of people brought in good information and input. And so I'm going to give the presentation today because the county wasn't quite ready yet to give their after action report. But I took a binder and I think I filled 25 pages with notes from a 2-day event. And a lot of it kind of pertains to us here and really is food for thought on what we can do better to prepare for a wildland fire and a wildland fire evacuation. So I've condensed 25 pages of notes into 5 pages of notes, and I'm going to try not to just read and bore you all. I've started out with just a few notes that I found really interesting. We had people from the County Fire and County Office of Emergency Management and Mill Valley were really the focuses, because the tabletop exercise centered in a scenario that was in Mill Valley. And so those were really our key players. Was a fire in Mill Valley that started out at the base of Mount Tam and spread towards Tennessee Valley and Marin City, and how would that play out? And a few of the things that I thought were really interesting is that before a wildland fire starts out, before it even broke out, they were talking about red flag warnings and what other agencies do during red flag warning days. And the County Office of Emergency Management upstaffs their staffing levels. They go ahead and they activate their JIC, which is the Joint Information Center. They get all of their public information officers together, and that does include Belvedere and Tiburon. They have people from Belvedere and Tiburon that are part of that JIC, but they activate and they start disseminating information on the red flag warning and what to do to stay safe. Mill Valley actually closes some of their high-risk parking lots and recreational areas to keep people from going in and potentially setting a fire in some of their more dangerous areas. Marin County Fire upstaffs their firefighters and their dispatchers so that if a fire breaks out, they already have additional firefighters and engines ready to go and additional dispatchers ready for call taking. And I thought that was really interesting, that behind the scenes, the things we don't know, they've almost doubled their staff and they're ready to go just in case. The police departments cannot as easily upstaff during red flag warnings. So there was really a focus during this exercise on mutual aid. So if we were to have a fire breakout, our people that are on duty at the time should immediately call in to the county for mutual aid assistance, and they're ready to go with 20 deputies that are ready to show up and help us out.
From
And
the
I
county.
think from the county.
Okay.
So if we call and say, hey, we need 20 law enforcement officers to show up and help us with evacuations, they will scramble and they'll get here. I don't know how long it's going to take, but they will send us help. So one of the key takeaways that I took from the prepping was just to really remind our officers that, hey, you're going to be in charge of evacuation. So if something happens, waste no time, request that mutual aid and get some help coming in. And the county was happy to start working that out. They're going to open up their emergency operations center and start taking requests for law enforcement. So we'll be able to get some help here pretty quickly. And if there's nothing else going on in the county and it's specific to us, we should be able to get quite a few police officers and sheriff's deputies from outside agencies. So just things that we don't often think about. You know, we have 3 police officers on duty at any given time, 4 police officers on duty. It just seems like so few. And I think we forget our great mutual aid plans that we already have in place. And during the fire event, again, this was over at Tam, or at the base of Mount Tam that we were focusing on. They really focused on what law enforcement is going to do during the evacuation. The law enforcement side is going to be the ones that actually declares the evacuation order. The fire department is going to have all the good intel, and so they're going to be advising the police department that, hey, we need to evacuate this zone. And so it's very important for police and fire to work together. And so having an incident command and having our police and fire side by side working together, very important. And again, with our small staffing, I think that the Mira radio is something that we should absolutely just be grateful for, because our police and our fire can actually talk on the same channel. So our Tiburon fire guys and gals were at this training, and they even said, hey, we monitor police, we can just flip over to the channel. And so if we see a fire breaking out in Belvedere or Tiburon, we can just jump onto the radio and say, hey, we need you to evacuate this zone. And using the old Zone Haven maps, which is now Genesis, we can actually go ahead and declare an evacuation order and phone it in to the County Office of Emergency Management, who will send out that Alert Marin notification. During the time it takes to get that Alert Marin notification out, it's going to be about 10 minutes is what they told us. They actually expect it to be about a 10-minute time lapse between the time we call for the messaging to their on-call personnel. And that's probably the high end, because they have templates and they're ready to go. But they say plan on it being 10 minutes. And so the county really stressed during that time, that's when we want our law enforcement to be driving around neighborhoods with the high-low sirens, knocking on doors, and doing the in-person evacuations. The different notification systems besides Alert Marin, they recommended having a good contact at our schools, because the school districts have really great notification systems that are trusted amongst the community and people that are signed up. And so that's something that I hadn't previously thought of, is working with the Reed Union School District for evacuation notices. And that's going to get a good chunk of our population. The County Office of Emergency Management is now using Nextdoor, and they are sending out emergency notifications through Nextdoor. And I don't know how many people got that during the tsunami warning, but I think that was the first time they sent something out. And so people that have the Nextdoor app actually got alerted through that. The WIA system is the system that goes through the state, the one that we use for Amber Alerts and that we got the tsunami warning on. That one can take 30 to 60 minutes to get a message out. So while that is an option, it does take some time. And the WIA alerts are going to go to a large scale area. So we could say we want a WIA sent out, but we could end up getting all of Marin County and maybe parts of San Francisco. So the Alert Marin system is still really the best system. It was just upgraded. And the only downside of the new system that I've heard is that it doesn't incorporate Nixle. So anybody that signed up for Nixle previously but not Alert Marin, they're no longer going to get those Nixle alerts from the county. So we really need to focus some attention on getting people to sign up for Alert Marin. Our numbers have steadily climbed, and I don't have the report, but the county provided me with one. We had, I think, about an 8% in the last year increase in registrations in both Belvedere and Tiburon. So it's increasing, but not as much as I would like, because we're still less than 50% of our residents have signed up for it.
Considerably less, like 34, 35%.
Yeah.
That was the last figure we got through DC3.
It's discouraging.
It is very discouraging.
It's very discouraging. So I definitely would like to keep focusing on that. There was a lot of talk amongst the fire people of, hey, we want to get 40 fire engines into this Mount Tam fire, but if we're sending 40 fire engines in, we're going to block the roads. So how do we get the people out? And the Cal Fire was there, and they said, hey, make sure you immediately ask for air support. And you can jump in anytime if you have any insight in this one. But CAL FIRE said, make sure you immediately request air support because we can get the planes in and they can start dropping the fire retardants or the waters on the fire, and that's not going to block your roads. I don't know what that does to people in their cars if they're dumping stuff, but the roadway is clear. Turn on your windshield wipers and go. But they were saying make sure to immediately request that air support. The key takeaway that I got from a lot of it was just make sure that resources are asked for quickly. And this is going to be something that we're going to start training a lot more on with our police and fire, is asking for those resources, mostly law enforcement, because we just don't have the resources here on the peninsula, but asking for people, asking for messaging, and getting things going. During the post-evacuation, after the disaster, there was really a lot of talk about bringing in the National Guard, not so much for the evacuations, but for afterwards when you start repopulating an area, you really need to make sure that you're only letting in the residents, the people with a right to go in there. We don't want to just let anybody start swarming onto Belvedere Island if there's been a lot of damage, a lot of houses burned, looting. So they even said, be thinking about, after the fact, say, hey, we want to start the National Guard and get them in here to start help, staging and getting ready for the repopulation of our town. Mill Valley really brought up a lot of interesting points about the traffic. They're getting ready to have their big evacuation drill on April 26th over in Mill Valley. And every year it seems to get better and better. But they brought up a lot of interesting points about the traffic conditions during an evacuation. And that's one of our biggest hot topics here. And so they actually have a trailer, an evacuation trailer, and it's filled with cones and barricades and traffic plans so that they can take all these critical intersections and roadways and say, okay, here on Miller Avenue at Camino Alto, we're going to take 3 of our lanes and make them all outbound towards the freeway and 1 inbound. And we're gonna, make that traffic pattern divert this way towards Tam Valley to Highway 1, or divert down Camino Alto towards East Blythedale to 101. But they have options for different traffic patterns, and they have it all mapped out. Because in the event of an evacuation that has to happen quickly, who knows who is going to be setting up traffic patterns and directing traffic? If we're calling for mutual aid and asking for help with traffic control, we could be sent Caltrans workers, public works people from the county, cadets from the sheriff's department, and they might not know our supplies in our area. So Mill Valley has really neat laminated maps that show, okay, here's how you set up this intersection for this scenario, so that hopefully anybody who opens up a trailer can set up that pattern and help keep traffic flowing quickly. And I thought that was really a great idea, and maybe that's a common practice in other areas, but that was the first I'd heard of it. They'll be testing all of that out on April 26th. And we actually have a couple of Tiburon officers going over, and they're going to be the ones to blindly go into the trailer and set up a traffic pattern. So I'll be really curious to see how that works. The county fire, Marin County Fire, has a hotline number so that they can set it up with information on a fire and evacuation. And so in order to get good messaging out and make sure that our phone lines at dispatch are kept free for emergency calls, they have this hotline that can give evacuation information, and they have somebody that will keep updating that. And also, to get good information out, we really want to keep pointing people to the emergency portal, which is the marincounty.emergency.gov, I believe, but don't hold me to that. And that's going to have all information put out on Alert Marin. It's going to have all the evacuation orders. It's going to have the shelter in place information. Everything will be on that emergency portal. And of course, we do hope that it all goes out through Alert Marin. And between all that, we hope that we're going to get good information to people. Alert Marin will be used for the evacuation orders. They've also they talked a lot about using the different zones to, one, issue the evacuation order, and then surrounding areas could be given an evacuation warning, like use this time to prepare. You don't need to go now, but start thinking about it. This is your warning. And then other areas that are not impacted, sending out a shelter in place notification to those zones to try to keep people off the roadways, to keep them clear. So that if we have an area of Old Tiburon that's on fire, we can say, zone 2 needs to evacuate right now. The other zones prepare, and then anybody further west can just shelter in place, stay off the roads, keep the roadways clear for evacuees and first responders. And so that's going to be really critical, is getting that shelter in place in order to just to help alleviate traffic. Getting the emergency alerts out quickly. Another point that was brought up is that we now have the Pulse Point and Watch Duty apps that I'm sure Naomi probably gets information from, but it gives out information on calls, law enforcement and fire. So a lot of times people are going to start seeing evacuation orders that have been issued just in the police calls and the fire calls. So we really don't want speculation out there too long, information coming from the Pulse Point or the Watch Duty. So we really want to make sure we get information out quickly so that it takes away any confusion that there might be. Things that we don't often consider that were brought up is during the evacuation process, during an emergency, making sure that we account for our recreational users, the people that are here hiking or at the beach, all of our tourist population, making sure that we get good information to them and tell them where to go and what to do. Especially the Mount Tam scenario, they talked about hikers, people that could be out hiking in an area that's at risk for being on fire. And so bringing in search and rescue, and that's something that we would have available to us here in Belvedere and Tiburon. We could call upon search and rescue and ask for assistance if we had concerns like that. And then one of the last things that was really a concern is, what if cell service is down? All of these notifications that we talk about sending out require cell service. I mean, even our new siren system that we're having put in the next couple of weeks, it's all web-based. And our officers and firefighters that are in the field, they're relying on a cell phone to activate a siren. So we really require that cell service. So it's just another consideration. The County of Marin has already purchased a few different Skylink satellites so that they can get cell service or web-based apps going. And that's a great idea, and I think we definitely should be looking at some different options for cell service. I think I am just about done here. I kind of talked about re-entry and making sure that that people that are coming back into neighborhoods belong in those neighborhoods, especially in a wonderful community like ours. We're a target because we have nice things. And so there are people out there that will take advantage of us and our situation, no matter how bad it is. Something that they learned from Southern California was making sure that some of these organizations that come in and say, hey, we're here to help you sift through debris, making sure that those volunteers that are so good-hearted have been vetted. Because even people that identified themselves as being with certain church groups ended up being bad people. So making sure we have a way to vet these volunteers and that we're not falling victim even more. And the last thing that I really thought was interesting was lithium battery debris. Post-fire, it creates a whole new hazard. And there's, I don't know how big the batteries are on these electric vehicles, but can we send people back into a hazardous area where there's a burned up lithium battery or a leaking battery? So just other considerations before we let people go home. And people won't be happy if we're telling them that you can't go home, it's not safe, there's no power, there's no water, your house is not structurally sound, that there's hazardous materials, people are not going to be happy. And my last point was that they said that's where the National Guard comes in handy, because they're not going to have the attachment that our community has, and they'll be able to say, no, you can't go in, it's not safe, and they can hold their ground. Whereas, Chief Wu is going to want to do everything in his power to help people get back into their home or what's left of it. So, we don't think about the aftermath, but it's something we need to start thinking about beforehand. That was my takeaway from a really awesome tabletop exercise. And I probably talked longer than even the county could have, but I was fascinated because this is a hot topic of ours on this peninsula. And so everything that I took away from all these other agencies working together it was just invaluable. And I was sitting side by side with Tiburon Fire. And we just walked out of there going, wow, we have work to do. And so the county is actually going to come down on April 30th. We're going to have the County Office of Emergency Management, and we're going to have a tabletop exercise with a very similar scenario, but it's going to be a Belvedere Tiburon scenario. And we're going to have a tabletop exercise in the EOC, and that's going to be for all of us first responders and communications teams to get together and really work through locally how we're going to respond and who's going to help us.
What date?
April 30th.
30th.
So at our next disaster council meeting, I'll be reporting back out how our local tabletop exercise went.
Will you have room for any of this group to sit in on this and observe?
I will have to ask if we're taking,
Why don't you?
I will do that.
Be at PD?
it's going to be in the EOC at the Tiburon PD.
Well, see, yes, it would be helpful if some of us, if not all of us, could observe exactly what.
Yeah,
you do.
it should be an interesting tabletop with a lot of good stuff came out of this FEMA facilitated one.
Okay.
And so I think that we're all gonna learn a lot, and I think it's definitely gonna be an invaluable experience. Yes.
Lorraine, I think you covered it, just from my notes. What will be the objective of this tabletop drill? What will we hope to accomplish?
I really think it's gonna be focusing on communications. I think that's going to be a big one. And also the working together, not just locally, but with the county and the state, that whole mutual aid aspect. So communications and the mutual aid. A lot of other good things I can tell you right now, we're going to talk traffic. I mean, there's going to be a lot of good stuff that comes out about it. Objectives that weren't even in the FEMA exercise came up and that weren't on the list, and we covered some good stuff. So I have a feeling this is going to be very similar.
I'm glad you guys are doing that, because the biggest thing that comes out of that is that you discover things you don't. No, I just want to say congratulations on, I'm glad they're doing that. And I'd like to be there if I can, because you'll discover things that you don't know were a problem. And that's the purpose of doing the exercise. So that's exciting and a big step in the right direction. So.
Thank you.
And Laura, your report was quite impressive. Congratulations. I think you did a great job. Any comments?
Yeah, Laurie, I've been pushing for working with the homeowners associations to try and increase the Alert Marin signups. I just want to know what's happened to the homeowners summit that was announced on the March fire preparedness meeting. I think it was announced that there was going to be one on the 22nd of May. And I haven't heard anything more about it.
And I've been working with Greg Chanis, the town manager, to get something together. It's going to be here, and we have the date. I think we decided it's going to be from 5 to 6, but you'll hear about it. We'll promote it.
Okay. And in terms of the zone data, can we get that data by HOA?
Yes. We have kind of mixed feelings. I don't know if we want to complicate it that way, because it's not something you would need to know.
Well, I'm just thinking if we give the zone data by HOA to the HOAs, they can work on trying to increase the signups within their jurisdictions.
So if you go to alertmarin.org and sign up your phone number and your address, you're set. You'll never need to go in and you'll never get an alert that says, if you're in zone 3, you need to go.
No, my point is the HOAs can be instrumental in reaching out to their neighbors and their residents to get them to sign up. So if they know that only 30% of, a neighborhood has signed up, can they set targets?
I'm following now. So not necessarily, I'm thinking Zone Haven still, because I just got out of the fire mode. So your neighborhood, you want to know how many are signed up in the Del Mar neighborhood.
Exactly. And we would, the HOA or POA would work to try and improve that by X% over a period of time.
I wish I could tell you exactly which neighbors are signed up to, and I can't.
Well, I understand that, but even if we knew that 30% and our goal was to try and get to 50% over 18 months, I think that would be very helpful. And if you do this similar sort of exercise across all the POAs and HOAs in Tiburon, I think we can get that number up substantially.
Let me talk to the county. They did just switch over Alert Marin to a new system. And so I'm not sure how much they're in a learning phase, but let me see what I can do to get at least your neighborhood before your meeting and
Okay.
hopefully all the HOAs before the HOA gathering.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, a couple of comments. The county did switch over. They have now jettisoned, if you will, Nixle, which was a private company that alerted. And we always kept kind of pushing that and advising people to sign up for that plus Alert Marin, because redundancy would be potentially helpful. The county has decided that Nixle is really more of a distraction, I think, than anything else, and they're really trying to emphasize Alert Marin. And they are vigorously going after people signing up, and you'll see all the time, you're going to see things about signing up for Alert Marin. So and get all of your neighbors to sign up for Alert Marin.
I think there's a bit of confusion over that because Sausalito and Mill Valley have said that they're going to continue to promote Nixle.
Mill Valley will not, this only happened about a week ago, so
Yeah, but-
Mill Valley will not be promoting Nixle from now on.
Well, there was a note sent out by Mill Valley Council that said that they would still use Nixle for non-emergency.
that-
So there are some jurisdictions that have chosen to pay for the Nixle service.
I think they're
and-
gonna go away quickly, though. But
And I
anyway,
know,
Alert Marin's the one we want to really emphasize for us. Yeah, mutual aid, you mentioned, mutual aid is the lifeline. Because we, on this peninsula, have and yeah, I'm sure you'll agree, have a significant chance of being isolated to get either people out or get emergency services in if Tiburon Boulevard goes down. So mutual aid is how they handle it now and have handled it for years. It's a great operational thing. We always get services in to help so that the 5 firemen that we have on at any one time cannot get totally overwhelmed, which they would if we can't get emergency services. What we're really concerned about is if we have a region-wide disaster and that mutual aid is no longer available. That's why we're trying to look at block cabin programs and things of that sort to step in and help. You said Mill Valley has improved this thing year after year. They haven't even had it for the last 2 or 3 years. Because they gave up having it. It took so much work and they did a tremendous job, but it took them 6 months to organize this disaster that no other community in the county actually did. And they did a great job. And then they gave up. So now they're going to try to rejuvenate it. It'll be interesting to see how that works.
and I'm not sure if they're taking observers, but if you went down to their community center, I think that's where they're having a little disaster preparedness fair at the end. And I'm going to go down there and observe that day. They've got some great leadership over there now, and they've got a great team of people that really has worked hard to put this exercise on this year. So I applaud Mill Valley. Their efforts are huge.
It's going to be early in the morning. It's like 8:30 or something like that. And then they're going to actually try to create a traffic jam. So it'll be interesting. Could you find out how much room there is for observers? I don't know that. And it would be interesting if people aren't doing anything else to go over and see what they are up to. Okay. Anyway, any comments from the audience? Yeah, Jane. You need the
Oh,
mic. You
Jake.
need the mic.
And I thank you all for listening to me. I told you I was really excited about that tabletop exercise.
It was exciting to hear. So I know you said something about Tiburon Fire and police on the same channel. Do you know if the Belvedere police are on the same channel?
Yes.
Okay. And then for the Alert Marin numbers, we've been promoting Alert Marin in our newsletter. And I know the people involved in the newsletter would love to see numbers whenever you get them about signups. So periodically, it would be great so that we could see. The other thing is we have 2 areas in Belvedere, one going into San Rafael Avenue off of Tiburon Boulevard, another on Beach Road, that we tend to put up banners to get people's attention. And one of the things we were considering doing is to put up big Alert Marin banners with like a QR code on them. But is that something, is there a particular design that Alert Marin wants you to use? Do we make up our own? If you can find out and let me know, just so we don't cross, with whatever they
Yeah.
want it to
And
look like.
if we can talk about this afterwards too, I'll absolutely help you. And if you need funding, let me know.
Okay,
Let's
great.
talk.
Oh, great, thanks. I think those are the only questions I had, but thanks again, it was great.
Mira, is Marin Emergency, what?
Radio.
Radio, and it is our emergency police and fire communication system, has been for years. They just upgraded it on a long, and which Rich Pierce was very involved in. It was 2 years overdue. It's finally in operation now. Is that correct? The upgrade, it was $5 million. Is that what it was? It was a lot of money, but it's now up and running. So we don't have access to it, but they use that and it's very effective. Okay, any other comments about Lori's report? Okay,
I had a quick thought, and that is, quick thought, Lori. This is obviously, this whole issue of having Skylink is a big deal. And over on the K, there's a guy over there who keeps telling me that we didn't need various things because, of course, we have Skylink. And I thought, well, not everyone has Skylink. And so I wonder if there's some way that we could get either Marin or at least Southern Marin to subscribe to Skylink so that we could expect to have the coverage, even if it's not otherwise available. I mean, it's not going to be helpful at all to have one person with Skylink. So I'll leave it at that.
all right, other comments? Sure.
I know we're running late on time. I was gonna do this on the board comments, but I think it dovetails in. I think the EOC drill on the 30th for our local agencies is a really great idea. I would encourage our local police and fire to, after the tabletop and sometime in the fall, transition to an actual drill, because to my knowledge, since I've been involved in this, we haven't done an actual physical drill. And that's where you'll see a lot of things. Mill Valley, to their credit, did it for many years, but did stop. I've done them before. They are very labor intensive, so I'm aware of the impact for our police and fire. But if it comes across, we can encourage them after the tabletop, look to the future and how can we do a small drill? Because not only do we have the peninsula, the issues, I mean, Belvedere in particular has its own issues with the small roads. So I just think a physical drill in addition to a tabletop is really where we need to end up at. That was it.
And that's always been my dream, is to have the Get Ready to Go 94920 event that we have in the fall. I've always wanted to have it be an actual evacuation drill that ends up at the event, instead of just asking people to please walk their routes, get to know their routes. So kind of trying to build up to something like that. So that's a great idea, Adam. Thank you. And are you volunteering to help with that? Okay, cool.
If we decide to do that, I think we should. I agree. It's a very labor intensive effort.
I would need
It'll take
I would need
lot
a
of
task force.
Yeah.
I would need a really active task force of
Yes.
people that wants to help plan and put that together.
Okay, we will move on to the tsunami sign, never-ending issue that's been with this committee for 10 years now almost.
So I'm
Where
sure,
are we?
I'm sure you're all tired of listening to me talk, but the tsunami sign, for those of you that were on the council way back then, you probably remember, we actually had the National Weather Service come down. They talked to us about the program. We were all on board. They gave us a map of recommended sites for tsunami signs. They gave us the signs. We went to council. Both Belvedere and Tiburon City Councils approved posting the tsunami signs. And then at the very last second, it all fell apart. So I would like to revisit, especially in light of the recent tsunami warning. I would like to revisit and to take back to our city and town councils the posting of the recommended tsunami zone signs.
And how do you want us to proceed?
So I attached to the agenda that you have in front of you the map, and it's very minimal locations for signs. And I'm hoping that the Belvedere City Council and the Tiburon Town Council will approve posting the signs again. And I could just resend out the original staff report or change it a little bit, send the original staff reports with the maps and the recommendations from the National Weather Service and put it before councils again. Even though we had approval once, it was 10 years ago.
Well, the councils have obviously changed, so it probably would not, I don't know whether it's legally necessary, but probably reasonable to run it by both of the councils. Jane, can we do that with yours? And at least get their approval. I don't think that'll be a problem.
That's what I think. So I'd like to vote today, since we actually do have a quorum, I'd like to vote to support the posting of the minimal amount of tsunami signs on our peninsula to raise awareness.
We're going to include the county too, right?
The county,
No, that means, the jurisdiction of.
right, the unincorporated area.
Yeah.
I will go and ask them permission to post the ones that were recommended in your area. I don't know why yours haven't been posted when most of the county has already posted theirs.
Well, I have one at home, but I got sideways with party.
Why don't we have a conversation on the side?
Yeah.
And I'll see what I can do to help work with the county and you to make that happen.
And we always used to kind of poo-poo tsunamis around here until we had an actual tsunami warning just a month ago, or whenever it was. And I think everybody woke up to that. Our response on this peninsula was less than perfect by a long shot. I mean, we had people walking down Santa Fe Avenue in the midst of this warning, not a drill, saying they were going to go down and watch this thing come in at the waterfront, which is exactly the wrong thing to do. So we do need some work in that regard, and I think this will draw some attention to that, hopefully.
Just a quick, simple question. Why the different colors on the bubbles? Do they signify something different?
Signs, one is you're entering a tsunami zone, one is you're exiting, one is tsunami zone, one is just a picture. There's 3 different signs and they're color coded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will move on to, do we have anything? Tommy Hellier is not here. Obviously, Tommy Hellier, for your information, is the new fire chief in Tiburon Fire, which is both fire and Belvedere jurisdiction, because Rich Pierce has retired. Where are we?
So I spoke with Chief Hellier earlier today. He was unable to attend today's meeting and he was very apologetic. But he's got a lot on his plate since becoming the new chief. But he took some time and gave me all the information on the siren upgrade. And I am happy to report all sorts of good news today. So within the next 2 weeks, by the end of this month, we should have all of our sirens upgraded. So the new systems will be working. And here's my notes from Tommy's conversation, Chief Hellier's conversation with me. They should be operational by the end of the month. They're being installed by Federal Signal, who's a really reputable company. The company Federal Signal will be coming in and they're going to do a training with our police department and fire department and our dispatchers from our communication center so that all agencies will be trained together. We can all kind of come up with our plans. And all the agencies, even though the police department is probably going to be the primary activator of the sirens, will have some redundancy. So if we don't have the staffing, it's the middle of the night, even our dispatchers could sound the siren at the request of a police or fire person in the streets. So we're all going to train together. They're going to provide us 4 hours of training on the system. The system is web-based. So our on-duty personnel will have an app on their phone, which will allow them to activate the siren. If activated in an emergency, the siren does have multiple different sounds that it can make, from wails to high-low. I believe I think the chief said there was a few different kinds of siren sounds, so we could actually designate a certain sound for each kind of emergency. So we could do a high-low for fire, we could do a different one for tsunami and a different one for earthquake. And the normal emergency alarm or siren will sound for 3 minutes. The monthly test of the siren system will sound for 1 minute. One of the neatest features, and it's just kind of a no-brainer, but one of the neatest features is that we can actually set up the monthly test so that every month on the first Saturday at 12 noon, the sirens will sound for 1 minute. And before, we had to manually go in, somebody had to sound it. We left it to the on-duty fire personnel. Well, as soon as they were on a call, there was nobody to sound it. So we didn't have a consistent testing time. So people didn't get used to it, and there was questioning of what is that. And so we're going to have a nice regular first Saturday of every month at 12 noon. We'll have the siren test. The first test of the new system could be as early as May 3rd. I think that's really pushing it since they haven't even started installing, but we're going to be optimistic and it could happen on May 3rd. And if it is going to happen, we're going to send out a lot of information on Instagram and Tib Talk and the Belvedere Breeze. So we'll get the information out, hopefully.
Belvedere Breeze goes out Friday. And then, well, oh, you know what? We have a Belvedere Blast.
Belvedere Blast.
We can send it out on the blast because this is appropriate for a blast.
It would be blast worthy.
Okay,
for sure.
perfect, perfect. So let us know and we'll get the blast out.
I love the blast and the breeze. So that is going to be really, really awesome. It's been a long time in the works. We're going to have a new state-of-the-art siren system.
Oh, Lori, a couple of questions. I'm sorry, Naomi, you could certainly help if you would through the art, getting some of the stuff out once it's time. What exactly are they? We're talking about all 6 or 7 sites, is that correct?
So we have 5 sites that
Okay.
Tiburon Fire has control of. The 6th one is in Southern Marin Fire's jurisdiction, and they've put an LRAD system out there at Bel Air School. And the LRAD system is slightly different. It can actually do a voice message
It's
and-
substantially different and
and-
substantially better, unfortunately.
and substantially more expensive. I
Yeah.
think each one was what, $120,000, and we got 5 of them for 36
And
or
are
something.
they going to actually, like, for instance, the siren that's sitting on top of the fire station there, they're going to take the whole thing down and put a new one up, or is this just internal
New
stuff?
innards. It's going to be all new innards is my understanding. So it's going to be the same shells and it's going to be just the new insides.
And it will allow us to put out 2 or 3 different sirens, but no LRAD, voice, anything of that sort.
No. So once again, we're going to go back to it's the siren that's going to make you know that something is going on. And that's when you want to make sure you're getting Alert Marin notifications, you're tuning into Snap Radio, whatever, going to the emergency portal, whatever method you like to get your emergency information.
So that's going to have to be heavily advertised too. When the people hear this siren, how do they differentiate it? And
And-
what do
and-
they do to get more information?
And that was just a thought as far as using different ones. We never used different sounds, I don't think, with the old one, even though that was an option, but
we
it's
never-
something that we can look into.
Okay.
If you hear the siren, go to the emergency portal, check your Alert Marin notifications, something's going on.
Lori, do these new sirens help us with the other side of Belvedere?
No. Do I want to change that? Yes. I
Well,
have
we will have the
ideas.
capability of using the mobile system, putting it in the back of the pickup truck and driving over there and have the same capability.
And that siren is loud. Did anybody make it to the Get Ready to Go event last fall when I used it as a PA system? And
Yes.
people were plugging their ears saying it was too loud and I had it on low volume. That mobile siren is loud and we can use that for the backside of Belvedere.
Okay. And there's some thought that we might consider purchasing another one, or maybe Belvedere would purchase one.
I'd like to see Belvedere purchase one because the one that Tiburon bought, if it's a peninsula-wide issue, Tiburon's going to be using it. And I definitely would like to make sure that the backside of Belvedere is covered. And that on a vehicle up and down the streets or even on the fireboat stationed right off the back would reach, it's loud.
And I know Rich Pierce's, whenever we would talk about this, when Rich, in the 20 years he was a fire chief, he would say that 8:40 AM obviously is not perfect. And there are lots of holes that we don't reach, but by increasing the amperage or the voltage, I'm not sure which one it was, which was against FDA regulations, but we would do it anyway. Now, is Tommy Hellier going to be committed to that?
In the event of an emergency, we are actually allowed to crank it up. We have an emergency or an emergency radio station. And so that it's my understanding that in the event of an emergency, we can crank the wattage up. So right now, it is definitely very much a line of sight, clear sunny day kind of radio station. So if you're not real close to the Mount Tiburon site, you're probably not going to hear it like out at the Bel Air neighborhood. You can hear it in most parts of Belvedere except for that backside. So you can hear it, but if we turn the wattage up, it'll be a lot more clear.
It
On a sunny day, I can hear 8:40 AM at my house in Novato.
Except we have places on the peninsula that you can't
Yes.
hear at all.
It's a weird line
Or
of,
if you
it's a,
can hear it, it's just garbled.
it's a weird line of sight thing.
And I wonder if you're saying that this is a possibility to crank it up. At some point, I don't know how you do it, but if we could get the okay from the FDA to test it and actually see how it does work, because this is an assumption that it's going to work and we have no idea.
Something to talk to the new chief about.
I'll talk to Tommy about it. Okay, all right. Okay, any other questions about our siren system? That, yeah, it's been down for 2 years now, almost.
I don't think it's been that long, but it's
Yeah,
been a
well, at
while.
least a year. Okay, good. Well, that will increase our capabilities. All right, we will go on to get ready classes. Is that where we are?
Yeah.
Where are we? With.
Get ready
with get
classes and
yeah,
videos.
Where are we?
Adam, do you want to take this one or do
Both
you
of
guys
you
want to
can
keep
go.
hearing from me?
Oh, speak Karen for me. You're on, yeah.
Adam and I are going to be hosting a Get Ready class, and I would love to have you all help me promote it. We're going to do it over at the library, which is a fantastic facility to have a Get Ready class in. It's going to be on March 13th. I'm sorry, it's in May, and I brought an old flyer with me. It's in May, and I don't have the date in front of me anymore. Do you know? We're going to have a class in May, and it's going to be over at the library, and we're going to provide refreshments. And in addition to having the Get Ready class, Adam and I have started brainstorming, doing a series of Get Ready videos, just little disaster preparedness videos that are 1 to 3 minutes long. You know, here's how you turn off your gas meter. Here's how you build a kit. May 21st. Thank you. So we're going to start doing a series of videos that we will give out to the Belvedere Breeze and Tib Talk and Instagram, and we'll try to get out there for the community
I
more.
think, Lori, I
Do
think
YouTube as well.
And we do have a YouTube channel, so we could go, yeah, so I want to start getting the little videos out because we've talked about it. Getting people to come to a 2-hour-long class is just not the way of the world anymore. But if you give somebody a 1.5-minute long video on how to turn off their utilities, I think that they will gobble that information up.
or a 1-hour class, like you've been doing for the last 10 years now, and you do it very well. And I think we ought to promote that and get people. It's really a stay at home, and we're, you know, that's where our emphasis is. Shelter in place if you can. Don't go out in the streets. And the more they know about sheltering in place at home, the better off they are. So I think you're still giving those courses, aren't you?
We're trying. The last one we had, Jane, you were at that one, weren't you? And there was like 5 people there and it was 2 council
That's something
members and.
else, Naomi, we need to push in this community. And along with the classes, let me simply mention this critical skills classes that I have been doing now for the past year. We gave 2, I give them a combination of 2 at the library last week and had 54 people in attendance, which is a record for us.
What is it called?
Just, it's life-saving skills. It's hands-only CPR, how to use Narcan, how to use an AED, stop the bleed, Heimlich maneuver. It's a 2-hour class. I think I've trained 280 some residents of Belvedere Tiburon now over the past year. And the enthusiasm for the people that take it is impressive. I mean, all of them go out saying, gee, we're glad we took the course. We really know much more now about how to do something in the time interval it takes for the first responders to get there. So we'll continue to do that. And thank you, Naomi, for pushing that. And the library published it, and we had 54 people taking this. So we'll continue. And it's now 5 o'clock. Anything else we need to talk about? Anybody in the audience have any comments? Okay. All right, well, we will entertain a motion to get out of here.
So entertaining.
Okay, all in favor, aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Another meeting. Well, we covered quite a bit today. And very good job.